Yes. Hello and welcome everybody to this podcast. My name is Tim, and this is hopefully going to be one of the last podcasts with this shitty microphone and static noise in the background. But bear with me because we have a very special guest today. Please, everybody, welcome Nathaniel.
Hey, Tim, thanks for inviting me. Always excited to hop on podcasts because normally I'm on the other side, like where I'm hosting. So it's fun that I'm finally because dude, I don't know if it's just you, but I prepare max when I'm gonna like host someone. So now that I'm invited, I just go in here and talk. It's refreshing.
It's refreshing, yeah. I mean, I don't prepare to the max. I try to keep this as much of a fluent conversation as possible. Maybe not the best strategy, but so far it's always worked, and that's why I'm going to keep rolling with this. But yeah, Nathaniel, how about you tell people about what you do, what you help people with, and yeah, your um, business.
All right, so I am Nathaniel GLGZ on all platforms, and I primarily help like business owners grow their personal brand through X. Now I'm actually also growing accounts on Threads and Instagram, and then I monetize it through email. So I basically everything that's warm audience from social media to lead magnet to email, even DMs, I take care of it. So that's what I do.
Okay, cool. We'll get in a lot more detail later. But for now, I want to ask you about your story because you have a very inspiring story from Nightshifter working like night shifts, which is my worst nightmare, to be honest, to now running a very profitable business. So how about you tell us your story into how you got into online business?
Right, of course. So there's a lot to there's if you my story's a long story because it's really just fell into place. It wasn't planned, but I guess we'll just start when I was night shifting. So I basically I left home 2 years ago, and then I started just hustling. Like I was homeless. I went to my girlfriend. I asked if I could stay with her. I had $0 in my bank account. I had no, actually I had no bank account. I had $0. And I just asked my girlfriend and I had to hustle. And so night shifting was actually the best job I've done so far. It's bad for people, but it was the best because dude, I used
Okay.
to clean I used to clean toilets. I used to work fix files. And I was getting paid really badly, man. There was one time I didn't even get paid for a day because I know what happened. The employer forgot because I was fixing I was
Okay.
cleaning toilets at that time. So, anyways, I went to night shifting. I was a call center. It was the best job I've ever had. $400 per month, which is good in the Philippines. I'm from the Philippines, and yeah, I was living that night shift, and then I would go to college because I was still in college at that time. I was sleeping 4 hours per day, and I was just a machine for a whole year, basically. I was just working, hustling. I wasn't thinking long term. I was just like, I gotta graduate, I gotta earn money, that's it. And then suddenly, the night shift company that I was working for, um, they had trouble with finances, and so people were getting laid off. And I was getting paid. There was 1 month where I got paid, I think $200 per month, maybe less, 150, something like that. And it wasn't even enough to pay my rent. And so I was really, I was in the dumpster there, and no one was gonna help me. I asked for help from other people, no one helped me. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to, um, I'm just gonna try my online. I'm just gonna try an online business, right? And I was already writing at Quora back then. I was already writing at X. It was for fun. I did it for fun because I just like writing. And every lesson that I would learn in that day, I would publish it, right? So I would write every day. The lesson I learned that day, like whatever, an interaction with someone, a book I read, I would write about it. And I was slowly building an audience, I guess, but it wasn't really. I wasn't really doing that in purpose. And so I was like, I'm gonna go all in on X. I'm gonna go all in on online business because I saw someone on X screenshot like a $2,500 something. So I was like, okay. I bought this course, um, ghostwriting course, and then I bought another course and another mentorship. So all in all, I invested like 13,000. Well, now it's more than that, but initially I bought 13,000 worth of courses and coaches. And I only had 5,000 in my bank account. And I was just hoping that something would happen that like that I would actually close a client so that I would pay off that debt, which I did. Luckily, it was lucky. And then yeah, again, it was just there's not like it's not super planned. It's not like whoa, he's amazing, dude. It was just hustle and make something happen. That's my story right there.
Okay, that's crazy. That's a
That's a
lot
long
of
story.
risk. That's a lot of risk, like investing so much if you don't have the money. Was there any, like, you obviously knew that investing yourself would pay off eventually, but like, what motivated you to take that jump? Was it like you were so desperate in your situation, or was it, just let me try this out?
So what's funny is that my personality has always been like somewhat of like a high roller. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like I'm all in, and if I lose, I'm like, well, fuck it, I'll just start from scratch. I don't know if am I allowed to like curse here.
Of course, yeah, go ahead. Fuck yeah.
All right, cool. So like I just do things, and then if something bad happens, I'd be like, fuck it, I'll just start from scratch. And so when I invested that much and I didn't have enough money, I was like, okay, if they keep on charging me, they won't be able to charge me. That was just my mentality. It's like, dude, what's gonna happen? They're gonna tell me, oh, you need to pay for this. How am I gonna like take my soul? Like, I don't know. That was just my mentality. I don't have anything, so I'm just gonna put all in. And I was thinking, there's so many things that I thought I had nothing to lose. I was in my 20s. If I go broke, like I'm already broke. Well, fuck it. At least I tried. Next thing that I was thinking was, if it worked out, dude, I'm gonna have like 20 times my salary. Like I'm gonna have so much more. And then the last one that I was thinking of was just like I gotta make something happen, man. It's just really desperation. And people kept on saying it's so easy to make money on X, it's so easy. So I was like, well, if everyone says it's easy, you know, might as well.
Hell yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. It reminds me of that Hormozy quote or something where he said, "If you have nothing to lose, then you're like the most dangerous person you can be." And
100%.
you basically, nothing to lose means you can put everything on the line because you have nothing. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, okay, let's unravel that a little bit. So you enjoyed writing before you started, making a business out of that. So that's how you
yeah.
got into writing. Um, but what inspired you to go into ghostwriting in the first place? Was it like the next best thing? Was it people on X talking about it all the time? For me, it was personally, it was Dan Cole. Like for most people on this platform,
Right.
what was that initial spark for you?
So with ghostwriting, it was just because I enrolled in a cohort. It was Jack Moses' cohort. He was a writer in Cortex. Um, I think he's a friend with Danko. And I enrolled in his cohort, and he just said like the traditional way is to do service based. And I mean that's what he did. He was a ghostwriter, and now he's like a consultant, and now he's more of like he does what's this like retreats. He does all the kinds of stuff now. But initially he was a ghostwriter, and that's how he entered the career economy. So I was like, it's a paved path. It was just like common sense for me that okay, if they say that ghostwriting again, it's just everyone's saying ghostwriting, so ghostwriting. Just make money, dude.
Just make money. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question for you because you have grown your brand to, I think it's more than 3,200 followers now. It's obviously very profitable. Like you
Mm.
probably make more money than a lot of people sitting at 100K. So what do you think are the most common mistakes people make when growing their audience and trying to do so profitably, not just random followers, but actually making some money from their audience?
Right. Um, this is one thing that like has been reinforced. I had this thought initially, but it's been reinforced by Hormozy lately. So Hormozy, I'm gonna use his authority because I'm not a big shot, but Hormozy is a big shot, so you gotta believe it. And Hormozy talks about this girl in Instagram who has like 5,000 something followers, and she makes like a million, I think. If I'm not like, but she makes shit ton of money online. I believe it's a million per year, right? She makes a million per year with 5,000 followers, and she closed her first client with 8 people in her email list. Right?
Yeah.
She closed her first client with 8, and Hermosa even talks about it. It's like I don't think that's even a list. Like you can literally send 8 emails to people, right? Like you can just manually do that. And but the reason why she was able to do that was because she's so niche. I think like she's like a doctor or something, and then she files taxes or whatever. But her content is so niche, so targeted that if the person that she's talking to sees her content, they just buy because it's just like authority, and she's not gonna please everyone. Again, like she's not. I don't even remember who she is because I'm not her target market. But everyone who matters will remember her because she's the only one who can do that. She's so niche. And this is one thing that I always like that I talk about is it's not about the follower count. It's about making every follower count, right? It's about like the quality of followers that you have. Because if your followers are a bunch of bots, it doesn't matter, right? If your followers are, it's just numbers. And if you want a profitable personal brand, then you need to be followed by the people who matter. There's another quote from Shan Puri. I don't know if you guys know him, but like my first million podcast, another fellow podcaster. He talks about you don't need to be well known, you just need to be known well. So it's all about like having the right people with the right message that you put out there and at the right time, and you'll get rich. That's what I would say.
Cool. How would you go about that? What's the strategy for attracting these exact people that you want to attract?
Right. So I mean, I'm a big advocate of market research. Like, I'm not silver market research. I buy course. I have so many courses on market research. That's how nuts I am. I learn about how to use Reddit. Like, I bought a course on Reddit, just Reddit, on how to do market research. I bought a course on how to do it on Facebook groups, how to do like meta ads, and all I consume is the research part. I don't even talk research about how to post the ad because that's not what I do, right? I don't post ads. I post content, which is still an ad, but I digress. Market research is so important. You have to know who you're targeting. So what are their fears and insecurities? What are their desires or their goals or their enemies? Like everything, like literally you need to, this is how I even think about it. It's like you have to create like a person, like a and you're talking to him. When you're writing content, you're talking to a specific person. So whenever I write content, I'm envisioning who am I talking to? Like even the facial features, everything. And then that's one. You need to know who, and then you need to know where they are. So that this is the reason why I've been posting on LinkedIn as well and slowly growing my account there because business is in LinkedIn, right? And if I'm going to help business owners grow their account, I need to be in the place where business people are. So I've been growing my account on LinkedIn. So where they hang out, and then, well, the details are more just their pains and their desires, and you just list them out. And you need to know that in their voice, like how they say it, and then what's the effect of it? What's the consequence of the pain? What do they do in consequence? So, for example, when you stub your toe, no, that's a bad example. But when you cut yourself, you look for a band-aid, right? So it's the same. Like if that's the case, if that's their pain, then you need to provide the band-aid because what do they do when they feel the pain? Is that making sense? I can't
Yeah,
articulate.
totally.
Right? Yeah.
That totally makes sense. I'm very interested in your process for market research because this is
Yeah.
something I also do a lot of. This is probably when I onboard a client, this is what 80-90% of my time is spent doing. So I'm interested in your process when it comes to finding out their desires, how they talk, where they hang out, their fears, and all the good stuff that you need to market your services.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it all starts. So okay, let's. I would say again, it goes to who first. Like it, you can narrow it down. You can start with the industry. So what industry? And then you go to the sub-market. So what is the market? So for example, fitness, right? Fitness isn't just fitness. Is it sleep? Is it like gym? Is it what do you call that? Supplements? You know, like there's different sub-markets within the market. And then you pick a niche in there. So what niche are you targeting? And then the best way to like now this is more not market research, this is more the implementation already, is to create your own niche that is still connected to the other niches. And that's how you kind of like segment everything. Anyways, I digress again. With the market research, you define the niche, you go to where they are. So you go there, you hang out, and you immerse yourself. Like literally, dude, if I have a client, my new client, I would spend like at least a week hanging out with the people they hang out. So if I had a client, I have a client who was a yoga teacher, and I would go to yoga pages and just listen to podcasts, like do yoga practices and think like history of yoga. Dude, I went bazonkers in that research. I just immersed myself into yoga culture. And that's what I do. I go into their brain. Like, what do they think about? What are their insecurities? What are their fears? What are their ambitions? And then I just create content around that.
Nice. Okay, it's similar to what I have. Like immersing yourself in that world is so important because just through osmosis you get all these ideas that you otherwise wouldn't have had, and trying to think like one of those people that you're targeting is definitely key here. So thank you for mentioning that. Um, I'm also interested in like the specifics of your content strategy. You recently, I saw you sold a course on writing threads, which
Yeah.
I find very interesting, especially for like traffic generation. Because if you can make them go viral, if it's not like a like irrelevant thread, if it's relevant to your story and your product and your target market, then
Mm.
that can be an incredible tool for generating traffic and generating leads and potential customers. So, what is your process for, well, first off, your entire content strategy? Where do threads fit into that picture? And how do you write those threads?
Right. So specific. So just my content strategy. So by the way, like these things I talk about in it's a free lead magnet, like the questions that you have. It's the X classified X files. It's in my bio.
Yeah,
But
check out Nathaniel's newsletter. It's gonna be linked below.
so that one is essentially there's three content buckets that I do. There's the general posts, so that attracts like a generic audience. And people say like, oh, it's like generic audience, it's bad. I agree. I agree. You shouldn't be like super generic, which is why we still have the two content ideas, which is the niche post. So this is the one that is more niche, like it's more no one will under like only your industry understand it, and then the ICP post, which is really targeted to the ICP, like to who you want to buy. Because your industry isn't your ICP, right? Your industry is how you establish expertise. I know my expertise, I know my industry. ICP is literally like you don't talk about your industry, you just talk to your ICP why you should buy from me. So those are the three types of content that I post and I use for my clients. The generic one, the generic post, generic audience is to just get more traffic in your website because or your X account. Because when you post that, people tap your profile and they look at your stuff. So when you post a generic stuff and then they tap your profile and they see, oh, he's not just a motivational guru, he actually knows his stuff, then it's still, you still convert. The niche post is to establish authority. ICP post is to make people act. Um, the ICP post is where the threads come in because the ICP posts are always the longest ones for me, right? The generic post and the niche post, I don't go super in depth with them because I don't think it's not necessary for me. But the ICP posts I really go deep into. And the reason why I like to use threads is because they don't know that they're being sold to. Because they tap the thread, they scroll the thread. If it's long form, of course, like you can do long form. The problem with long form is if you put a link, like if you put external links in long
Yeah.
forms or any post, it gets deboosted, right? And so they'll need to scroll to the comments, which is like not all doesn't it doesn't always happen with long form posts, but threads, your brain is programmed to scroll continually until you see the end, which they sign up to your newsletter or whatever. That's why I like to use threads. The other reason why I like to use threads is it multiplies your impression. So if your first thread gets 1 million views and 300,000 people tap on the next thread or read the next thread, that's 1,300,000 views. Unlike a long form where it's just the long form is 1 million, that's it. There's no more, right? With the thread, dude, if you have like a 12 thread 12 tweet thread, you can get like 2 million impressions with just 1 million at the top, right? That's another benefit of threads, and it also gets more creative because you can use like videos in the middle, graphics in the middle, unlike long forms. That's my content strategy. That's why I use threads. With my approach with threads is just, I mean, my content strategy is always just what pain am I solving or what desire am I fulfilling? And then I write about them and then I make it emotional. Like I try to make it as specific as possible. So trigger like specific scenarios. So if I know that like just going to the yoga teacher, if I know that every yoga teacher struggles with the dog, the down dog, I'll talk about I used to struggle about the down dog. Like if I say that, then every yoga teacher will resonate. And that's how you trigger emotion because you're specific. You don't just say, "Oh, I suck at poses." Like everyone, even not even yoga teachers, they suck at poses. But if you get specific enough, you're like, I used to struggle with my cobra or whatever. That's probably not a good example, but yeah, the more specific you can become, the more emotions you can trigger. So that's it. That's my content strategy.
Mm. Okay, cool. Very insightful. Specificity seems to be key. You recently posted a very cool email that I loved reading about the 3 stages of running I think it was like 20K per month business or like a highly
Right.
profitable writing business. So take us through those 3 steps and how one can go through each one to set themselves up for the next stage.
Right. So that's my experience. I'm not like a super I didn't research about that. It's just my experience. But essentially there's 3 stages. There's the survival stage, there's the growth stage, and I think there's the scale stage, if I'm not mistaken. That's my email. And just like and that's again based on my experience. So I would say that survival stage just to make money. Make enough money to survive. That's the survival stage. There's no fixed quantity there. Like make money to survive. I would say that the growth stage is at 10K. Like generally when you hit 10K, you're good. Generally. Like you have a good living, you know, sustainable living. And then the scale stage, I would say, is 20K above, right? And in survival stage, dude, you just have to hustle. That's literally it. For the survival stage, you just have to look for something that works, and you have to like, and that's the hustle itself, looking for something that works. Because not so this is gonna be controversial, but not every course, not every mentorship will be fit for you. There's gonna be things that work for me that won't work for you, and you'll have to find what works for you. There have been many, dude. That's why I spent 13,000, now 18,000 on coaches and courses, because I needed to look at different mentors to see what works for me. And in a way, I became an accumulation of all those mentors, because I didn't just stick to what one mentor said. And I know that a lot of people say stick to what one mentor says, but there's nuances in that, because like, especially, okay, it's like controversial, but especially when that mentor is after your money, they're not going to give you all the answers. They're not going to give you all the answers, and they're just going to say, do this, do this, do this, and if it doesn't work, you haven't tried hard enough. Like, that's what they're going to tell you,
My God,
right?
yeah.
So you have to find a way to make it work by yourself. At least that's what I did, dude. Like, I did email courses in the beginning, and then I eventually did social media, and then I did email, and now I'm doing like Instagram, I'm doing threads, because I was just doing what would work. Anything that would get money in there, I experimented, right? And that's also how you find yourself, man. You find yourself like, are you actually built for business? Not everyone's built for business, dude. If you can't make money at that stage, you're not built for business. It's fine. You shouldn't take it personally, or maybe you just have more, like, you need to grow more as a person. So that's the survival stage. You figure out what works. That's the journey. In the growth stage, you've already found out what works. That's why you were able to scale at 10K. So you found out what works, right? If you found out what works, the challenge is to do what works forever. Not forever, but a long time, consistently. Like, being able to sit down like 4 hours per day to do outreach. If that works for you, you should do that, right? That's the important part in the growth stage, scaling 10K to 20K, right? You need to find out what works and do that continuously, even if it sucks. And if you want to delegate it to find someone to do it, make sure that they're doing it correctly, because it's what works. So that's the growth stage. And the final stage, scaling. Scaling is when you assemble a team to completely systemize and automate, delegate, whatever the word is, the process that works, so that you can remove yourself from that, and you can work on the business, not in the business, right? Because when you're in the business, you're not going to be able to see everything. But when you detach yourself and you see like it's working, the machine is working, you'll be able to see, okay, this is the right direction. We should be moving here. That doesn't mean you're not going to work. That just means that the work you're doing is now different. And now you're going to like go up the scale. Maybe you're going to add some more offers, like different offers, and you're going to be a business. You're not going to be a freelancer. You're not going to be an employee anymore. You go from employee mindset to employer. So those are my three stages. I'm not an expert. Don't take my word for it. That's what worked for me. Again, do your own research, fill your own experience, do it so that you can find out what works for you.
Yeah, critical thinking is so important, especially when there's so much advice out there that's all conflicting. Like this one guru tells you to do X, then this other guy tells you to do Y, which are complete opposites. And in general, I have to limit the pool of people that I take advice from. I have like 5 people max that I take advice from like at one point in time.
Yeah.
Because if it's too much, then you can't discern between what's reality. Obviously, as you said, you should have different types of mentors, which sometimes have conflicting views, and then you should discern which one is right for your situation. But yeah, I think it's a hell, like it's
Yeah.
confusing as fuck when you have so much advice. Um, okay, those three steps make a lot of sense. I want to ask you about phase number three, or maybe phase number two, about
Mm,
delegation, how
mm.
you go about finding the right people to do certain jobs for you, how you find them, how you train them to actually do a good job. Yeah, take us through that process.
Right. So with that, with the delegation part, I always believe in character first, skill second. So my first hire was not, he was not the best writer, right? I had to teach him a lot, but we had the same mindset, we had the same values, we had the same goals. We were so aligned, like even in the vision of life, like his endpoint in life was parallel to my endpoint in life. And so I was like, dude, I just told him, I'm like, we're gonna work together and it's gonna be probably super tough. But if you stick with me, like we'll be able to achieve the goal. So I'm all in for character first. Of course, they still need skills, of course. But if you have a guy who's hardworking and is willing to learn, dude, you teach him something, you tell him do it again, do it again, do it again. He does it. Like he'll learn in 2 to 3 weeks, just repeatedly. And so how I go about with delegation is first character, and then when I'm training him, how I train him is I basically just show him everything that I do. So I have this software, it's called Loom. I record my whole screen while I'm doing stuff. Like when I'm working, I record it and then I send it to him. And then I tell him, watch this, this is how I did it. And I don't tell him instructions. I tell him to watch it and take notes on the steps by himself. Because if I tell him instructions, he's not going to be able to understand my own brain, right? Because my brain functions differently. But if he sees how it works and he understands it by himself, how was he able to like replicate, or how was he able to get that result? He's going to be able to replicate it more smoothly than I am. I will. So that's what I do. I just record my video, pretend that there's nothing, record my screen, pretend that there's nothing happening, and like do my work and then send the loop. That's what I do. And then I mean, you gotta invest time, right? You gotta invest. You meet them. I meet him every week. I talk to him, like I ask him. And dude, I don't know if you've done consulting offers, but he's basically a coaching client. That's basically it. He's basically a coaching client because you have to ask him, okay, how have I helped you? Because this is the same thing with coaching, right? You ask them, how have I helped you, and how can I help you further? What are the areas you want to work on? Blah blah blah. What's your goal? You got to reinforce always the goal. What's the vision? You got to reinforce their vision. Is this still your vision? Is my business still aligned with your vision? Because if it's not, like it doesn't make sense for us to work together. So he's basically like a coaching client. The difference is you're paying him, which is, that's the difference. But essentially that's it. It's like you have a coaching client who works for you. That's how I approach it.
Cool. I love that way of looking at it. And I'll definitely implement the just recording your screen while doing the work and then sending that over. I think it's different if you have like someone who just does some monotonous work, like I don't know, engaging on Twitter. You can send them like an SOP or something. But if it's creative work, like
Mm.
writing content for a client, then just giving them the steps is not gonna be
Yeah.
enough because there are many more complex thought processes behind writing content. Okay, that's very cool. Definitely gonna make use of that. Thank you. Um, we touched on a lot of this already, but you recently landed your biggest client to date, which is worth 13,500, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Okay. We talked about content, so I'm assuming that was a big part of attracting that client. But what were the other intricacies of attracting such a big client and then getting them to actually make the deposit?
Actually, I didn't. He didn't come from content. He came from a referral.
Oh, that's even better. Those are the best ones.
Yeah, he came from a referral, and it was so easy because it was a referral. Like my client just told him he's the best. Like he'll take care of you. The guy and I, like the client and I, went on a call. Have a little bit of chat. Told him what I do, and I told him I'm really excited to work with you, and let's make it happen. And then he just said, okay, send the invoice. Send the invoice, pays it. Like it wasn't super. It wasn't like a strategy. Oh my god, like I did this and I did that. Like it was just a referral. It was already set. It was just it needed to be signed, and that's it.
Yeah, I guess the lesson here is just to over deliver for each and every
Yeah,
client and to just be human. Like actually, fucking like want the best for your clients and not just try to sell them some shit. That's personally been a big revelation for me. When I was starting out, I was so needy for clients that I forgot to
mm,
actually have like small talk before I would pitch them, which just
yeah,
led to horribly awkward situations. And a lot, like a big factor for making people work with you, in my opinion, is just how much they like you as a person or how much they respect you as a person. And nobody's going to respect you if you're just here to pitch them on a fucking sales call. So
hundred
I guess
percent,
that's
dude.
the lesson there. Um, let's talk about your podcast. I'm an avid listener. So
Thanks.
you have recorded 35 or 36 episodes, something.
Thank, yeah, along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. I'm like episode 6 or 7, but I'm slowly getting the hang of it. But tell me, what were the lessons you learned? First off, the lessons you learned about podcasting that would be especially interesting to me, and but also like general lessons about business, about life, or who like which people like had the coolest insights, basically.
Right. Um, okay. First question, what did I learn from the podcasting? Podcasting is probably the greatest way to network and to like just I think that everyone should have podcasts. That's my take on it because it's just so easy to do. Like you invite someone on a call, you record it, and you get a call conversation, you get content, and you get connection. Like you get them to like you,
And you get fun.
and
It's very fun as well.
yeah, it's fun too, right? You get the conversation, it's fun. So I think that everyone should have a podcast because it's the greatest networking tool. Um, in regards to what I learned from my podcast from my guests, I've had amazing guests. I've learned a lot, dude. I swear, I've learned so much from my podcast because it's it's different when you have a conversation with them and you get to ask questions rather than like see their content. Because most of the people I invite are content creators, right? And when you're consuming their content, you see their ideas and it's cool. But then when you get to converse with them and you get to ask them why that is, it becomes like this euphoric feeling of like mind blowing shit, dude. Like it's just epiphany after epiphany after epiphany. So I can't tell you how many lessons that I've gotten from that. But one of my favorite like episodes that I've done, one of my favorite people is Atlas, like Dentist Leo. He just because he's so knowledgeable of human nature. Like the way he speaks to is very hypnotic. And so like when I had a conversation with him, it was dude, it was I was back in the college professor vibe because he was just so knowledgeable in what he was saying. So the biggest lesson that I learned from him, or my favorite takeaway from that, is people don't need logic to follow you. He talked about that. Like he talked about they don't need logic, they just need a connection. Well, of course, logic is strong. It's one of the pillars of um, rhetoric, but he talked about how some people, let's for example, Donald Trump, right? He says the wildest things you could think of, but because he has this certain connection, he uses the language of the masses. He's able to connect to the average American. They trust him, right? Whatever he says, they trust him. And so that's my biggest takeaway there is that you don't need more information or more logic. What you need is to connect to your audience. They need to feel like they're part of your tribe, like that you are their leader and that you're leading them somewhere. And they're part of your team. That's what I would
I love that. I'll definitely try to get him on as well. That's
say. Go for it, dude.
yeah. Okay, very cool, man. Um, two more questions I want to ask you. You have the pulse on your finger when it comes to how Twitter or X or Threads or other social media platforms like Instagram now are evolving. Where do you see those platforms evolving, and how do you plan to adapt?
Sorry, what platforms?
Just Twitter, Threads, Instagram, like the entire landscape, basically.
So honestly, I'm not like I don't believe in algorithms, or I do believe in them, right? I know the value of algorithms, and I know the value of these platforms. It's just that I'm more of like a human guy. I study humans. I look at their fears, who they are, and then I go to where they are. That's why I'm in LinkedIn, all that. So I can't give you an educated comment on where these platforms are gonna go. I do know that like Elon is a genius. Like his book is right there.
Nice.
I believe like he's turned around so many like the companies that he makes just always goes insane, and so I have high expectations on X. That's why it's still my favorite platform. Um, with Threads though, like the algorithm in Threads is a hit or miss. It's either you don't have a lot of
Yeah.
like traffic or you have a lot of traffic. But again, I'm not an authority, so I'm going to cite a study by Alex Ramosi. He says that the two platforms that you should build on is Instagram and YouTube. Those are the most like he says that the growth potential are better in YouTube and LinkedIn. Not LinkedIn, YouTube and Instagram. So do that. And he says his second tier is X and LinkedIn. And so I'm building on those four platforms. The other ones, I don't remember how he ranked them, but I just flashed forward. He made a video about it. I watched it. I was like, oh, okay, YouTube, Instagram,
Nice.
X, LinkedIn.
Okay. Interesting. Have you heard of this? Oh, how's it called? Blue Sky or something?
Right? Yeah,
This
dude.
this Twitter replacement.
I downloaded it. I haven't signed up to it, but everyone's building there for some reason. So
Yeah, I
I
might
don't
just cross post on there and catch some lucky algorithm boost or whatever. It's quite weird though because we have Threads, Twitter, and now this Blue Sky thing. It's confusing. But yeah,
know.
YouTube definitely is. I've been sleeping on YouTube for so long, but like there's so much potential there because your YouTube videos they're like assets. With Twitter
Yeah.
posts, they're gone in 2 days max.
Mm,
With YouTube videos, people can find them 10 years later and they can binge on those videos. It's like a Sean Puri calls them binge bank, calls it binge
yeah.
bank, where you can watch hours of someone's content and then by the end of like that binge session, you know them extremely well and they're
Yeah.
so much more likely to working with you. That's why I've been building a blog, but YouTube is just takes it to another level because it's video content. People can see you talking, people can see you thinking on camera, so it's like a lot of potential there, and I definitely need to come up with a strategy there. Do you have any tips for Instagram or YouTube? I don't know if you do anything outside of your podcast on YouTube, but
Right.
Instagram.
So Instagram, same thing that I said earlier. Generic post, generic audience post, niche post, and ICP post. And instead of a thread, I use carousels. So if you guys don't know what a carousel is, it's like photos, swipe, swipe, swipe. And I just put the threads in there. Same thing, same strategy. Um, and then with YouTube, uh, I don't have a strategy. I just post.
Nice.
I just like get a podcast if I'm inspired to do a video. Like I did two videos a couple of some time ago, and I liked it. But then I just I don't know. I guess I was too busy. And the podcast, like I was justifying myself. I have the podcast anyway, so I can still post there or whatever. But yeah, I'm planning to do YouTube. We'll figure out. But they do say that it's just like the content, man. I just focus on providing value. Like I'm gonna talk to the camera. I'm going to like sit there, have a camera on me, talk about something, talk shit. Like yeah,
Yep.
have fun.
Cool. Love it. Nice. Okay. Cool. Now there's this. It's so fascinating to look at all the potential that there are on these platforms and how little we're actually doing. Like we could be on YouTube. I could be on Instagram, and I'm not doing. I wonder if about how many clients I'm missing out on if I'm just not posting there. But you know, can't be
You're not,
overwhelmed.
dude. You're not. The thing with okay now I'm gonna tell you like the Instagram. Well, unless you do Reels, which takes a shit ton. Like, dude, the ROI for Instagram, at least for me, the time wise, right? Time wise, it's not worth it for me right now. It's just it's just too well. There are like AI stuff now. I haven't explored that, but I if you're a ghostwriter, I would say so. This is for ghostwriters.
Yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
build on X and LinkedIn, and yeah, X and LinkedIn and Threads. With Threads, what one of my friends like Haydem Naji. You know Haydem Naji,
Yes, I've had him on the show.
right? Haydem is like I got on a show. I recorded a show like a couple of a week ago. I haven't posted it, but Haydem said that what he did with his Instagram is basically just a landing page where he has his Instagram and there's like a little bit of pictures in there, and
Mm,
then he had like
that's
a
clever.
link, and then he would just
Nice.
post in threads. That's what he did. He said. So I was like,
Nice.
oh, that makes sense. Like just post a little bit of stuff in Instagram and then post on threads because they're still gonna go back to Instagram because you can't DM.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually very smart. I would just hear about people like J.K. Molina. He has like 200,000 people on Twitter. He has like
Mm.
10,000 on Instagram, but he's sending like 90% of his students or like coaching clients from Instagram. But yeah, you could always be doing more, obviously, but you can't lose focus at the same time. So
Yeah.
I'll see where their journey. We'll see where their journey takes us. Do you have any plans for the future yourself? Is there anything that you're working on currently? Or something that you want to make people aware of? Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So right now I am planning to I I like to give giveaways just because like I like to give value. I'm already creating like templates that use for my email courses. So like email templates on like email courses that close me those 5-figure clients. And then um yeah, there's gonna be a workshop about how to build lead magnets. So that's what I'm working on. Not sure when it's going to like happen. I don't want to make promises. I aim to do it this month, but not sure.
We'll
But
see.
that's so emails as always, and daily content. Having fun.
Cool. Everybody, check out Nathaniel's Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, his podcast. Subscribe to his newsletter. He genuinely posts some really cool stuff on there. And yeah, thanks for being on, Nathaniel.
Appreciate you, dude. I'll see you around.
Cool, man.